Hey, Buddy Manning here. Garden Report live outside Celtics practice edition. And we're going to get into the keys to Game 4 just over 24 hours away on Monday. Every other day is the story of this series, and it's not great for the Celtics from an injury perspective with Marcus Smart now dealing with a pretty bad ankle sprain. We talked about that in the last video, as well as Robert Williams' day-to-day status entering this series. As the series continues here, it's not great if those two aren't available, but there are ways that the Celtics can adjust and overcome those injuries. They almost did it in Game 3, coming within 1 point late, but turnovers, of course, the story of the series now. 24, most by a team since 2018. In last game, we've talked about all the habits that have popped up again, whether it's the complaining, whether it's the individual defense, which really hasn't been a problem, but was early on there, and not following what was talked about in shoot-around and in the days leading up to this series, as well as just the stagnancy offensively, not passing, not moving the ball, guys trying to do it on their own. Like, I think you could qualify Jaylen Brown's Game 3. And so all those things need to be addressed, but none are bigger than the turnovers. And it felt like entering Game 3, especially with Kyle Lowry coming back, that the Heat had a golden opportunity to not only get Bam going in the pick and roll, which they did early and often, but also speed the Celtics up. Get after the ball handlers, really rush them into the half court and make them make quick decisions, quick shots, overthink, and that's exactly what they did. Here's Grant Williams today talking about how the Heat sped the Celtics up.
I feel like we didn't do I feel like we did a good job of, putting opportunities at the one point, but we didn't do a good job of spacing, giving him a place to kind of play how he plays. And they do a good job loading up, making sure that they take him, quote, out of the game, quote unquote. But we have to do a better job of maybe off-ball actions, or even just making sure that we understand that the screenings that we need to set, and they're gonna shrink the court. Like, some of the shots that we take aren't gonna. Sometimes they might have to have games like that where he only shoots 4 in the second half, but others he might have to take more. So, like, shot-wise, I don't really think too much of whether he shot the ball or whether he didn't shoot the ball, but what we could have done better offensively as a whole to look better as a team.
So that becomes even harder to overcome if you're down Smart, and we'll see whether or not he is. But either way, this series now falls on Tatum and Brown. I wrote about it for CLNSmedia.com last night. Go check it out. The notion that we really don't know whether or not the Celtics have moved past completely their problems earlier in the year. Now, have they gotten exceptional at addressing them, understanding them, and covering them up and suppressing them? They've done a phenomenal job of that late in the season, especially when they've been healthy. But down some guys, down in games, in tough spots, in fourth quarters, as we saw last night, those things pop up, and you just fear whether they're baked into this team and whether it's always there lurking, ready to emerge. And they're going to need to always be thinking about how to suppress it, especially Tatum, who goes 0 for 4 in the second half. Grant says that's not always the problem. Sometimes it won't be shooting and scoring that gets it done for Tatum, but they've got to do a better job freeing him up. That screening, Daniel Tice making himself unable to play in that game, hurts in that regard, but it's also decision-making by Tatum, and that's what it was all about in Game 3. Got to make sharper decisions, got to value possessions, just have to hold on to the ball. Brown in the lane said he did a terrible job handling the ball, and I think we'd all agree with that, 7 turnovers. So you look to the stars. I think Al did all right after a rough start. I think Pritchard stepped in again and gave them some really good minutes. Grant can have a better game than he did, but wasn't the reason that they lost. It was the turnovers. And most of those turnovers, 13 out of the 24, come from the Jays. The head of the snake, 2 guys that are going to be leaned on again if Smart's out for most of the ball handling on this team. And it feels like the book's out, that you can really rush these guys, really get into them, really pressure them, and it's going to disrupt this offense. Now, you build a good floor for yourself if you're the Celtics with defense, and they defended exceptionally through the middle portions and even the late stages of the game. PJ Tucker did miss a late layup that opened the door for the Celtics to take the lead. But other than that, it was good stops, bodies in front of bodies, as Ime Udoka talked about earlier in the series, and just strong rotations. Now, the paint touches became a problem. Bam had that nice short-range jumper. You're going to have to adjust to contest that because he can hit it if he's going to aggressively take it. But Jimmy Butler not a strong offensive threat early in that game. Tyler Hero, you got him to miss some shots. I still feel like the Heat are stagnant enough in the half court that you're going to be able to stay in every game in this series. It's just whether you can execute offensively, especially when the game reaches its most vital point. Without Smart, that comes down to Derek White, who just needs to be better. There's no way around it at this point. We can talk about all the little things that he does. 33% from the field, 23% from three this postseason. You're just not going to impact the game at the point guard position, putting up those stats. And it's really down to him and Pritchard if Smart's going to be out for any length of time in this series. Now, Smart himself came back with some quality shot making, chasing down offensive rebounds, passing and finishing around the basket. Those are all the things that White needs to provide if he's going to step into those shoes, because Smart, even his hobbled version of himself, was still able to impact the game in those ways. And Tatum, again, if the shot's not falling, has to be able to impact the game in other ways. Instead, the Celtics spiraled into complaining, and you do worry whether this team is going to be able to completely shake these issues. They got fortunate last round when they went to Game 5 and they blew a game by doing those things and then ripped off 2 straight. So the Celtics have shown their resiliency and their ability to overcome losses this postseason, now 4-0 in those spots. But they have to do the things that made them successful in those spots. Ime Udoka telling me last night that it's the lack of carryover that was the biggest reason that they weren't able to shake some of the issues from earlier in the year, get Tatum going. The 2 biggest topics out of last night's game, a 109-103 loss for the Celtics. They look to bounce back in Game 4 on Monday night after today's film session. Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, we talked about their availability in our other video. Go check that out at Celtics All Access. Go check out com.com/garden for 40% off a premium subscription. That's com.com/garden. And of course, HelloFresh offering you 16 free meals, 3 free gifts to get started. HelloFresh.com/playoff16. Variety of options, prepackaged ingredients, and instructions to make dinner time restaurant style and quick in your own home, as well as laid out right for you, in front of you, making it easy. HelloFresh, shout out to them. And shout out to CLNS Media, continuing to cover the Celtics playoff run, down 2-1 to the Miami Heat. We'll have Game 4 coverage tomorrow, starting with shoot around here at Auerbach Center. I'm Bobby Manning. Talk to you soon.